In a world where technology is rapidly reshaping the way we work, one industry is quietly but profoundly transforming: manufacturing. Today's guest on the People Blueprint has been at the heart of this shift. With over 3 decades of experience in people development and business transformation, Kashyap Thorve brings a front row view to how learning and leadership and human capability are evolving. This isn't just about factories, it's about futures. So let's just dive right in. Welcome to the People Blueprint, a podcast where we decode the future of work through the lens of learning, leadership, and people strategy. I'm your host, Sheila Vasan Singla. Today's episode is special. I'm joined by someone with over 3 decades of experience across business development, people transformation, and learning strategy. Kashyap Thorve. With a deep understanding of both the IT and manufacturing worlds, Kashyap brings a unique perspective to what learning looks like when people and machines work side by side. Welcome, Kashyap. It's an honor to have you on the People Blueprint.
Thank you very much for having me, Sheila.
So I'd like to start at the beginning. You have seen the learning landscape for almost 3 decades. And now in the recent past, there's been a lot of things that have changed. There's robotics, automation, AI, all that has come in. I'd like to ask you, what do you see as some of the major changes that have taken place?
Learning has evolved. Over 3 decades, I would say that learning has evolved very, very, very rapidly. In fact, the way I have seen learning, and I'll also like to tell you how learning triggered me, or training as it used to be called initially triggered me.
I'd love to hear. Tell me more about your journey then.
So 1990, I probably started as a new kid on the block.
Okay.
As a programmer, coder, joined hands with my brother to, make an IT revolution, at least in my mind. Started selling computers. Okay. Then I realized that 3-4 months into selling computers, we were not getting the traction that we were expecting. And when we did a little bit of analysis, we found that people were not really using it. They bought it because they could afford it, but they were not really using it. And so we went back to them saying that, what would make you use it? So they said, can you teach us? I can't go to an institute. So both individuals and corporates, we ensured that we sent somebody to their respective managers or the owners of business, and we did a 15-session, 20-session program. And then we realized that it is the way to sell computers as well. So it kind of, I could say, serendipity that it started, and it went off like, in 1 year we sold as many computers as number of days.
Wow.
So that was the very interesting
And all
part.
because you went that extra mile to train them and help them learn.
Yeah.
So what were some of the formative moments that you went through that really developed your perspective on learning?
So first and foremost thing, when computers came in, and I'll move away from computers to the mainstream training and learning. But one of the things I realized that it is about developing capabilities, either to use the new tool or it is to scale up. So we looked at avenues where people can be trained to scale up and be productive, be more efficient. And that's how we started training as a separate revenue stream in my business. And slowly it so started that, people started hiring us for doing sales training.
Oh.
So that's how we branched out. And over a decade of time, we kind of ensured that we had a stream for sales training revenue. We had for computers, programming, all that. But it was all very disparate. And when I came out of my entrepreneurship into this thing, into the corporate world, and I realized that there is a lot of potential for doing the sales training, because at that point in time, it was a telecom industry that I joined in, and they were all rapidly increasing depth. Okay. And we realized that if they need to do the depth, they need to hire fast, and we need to train these people fast on how to sell. So that's how that entire thing started.
You're talking about the year
About 2000.
2000, yeah.
Yeah. And it was really well received. And then I saw that there is an evolution. You talked about AI. We saw e-learning coming in a big way. We started seeing, how in recent times, maybe about a decade back, we went into AR, VR for learning. We're currently, exploring how we can use the Gen AI into learning. We've done some preliminary work there, and it's been a real evolution. And the big shift that I would say has been that we moved from classrooms to, customizing learning for individuals. Not just about their life skills, it is about even their functional skills, how we can customize them. And that's, I think, is a big shift that we made over the last 3 decades.
I think for me, one of the formative moments that I had, which really changed my view on learning, was when I was talking to a participant that I had worked with about 2 years before I re-met with him. And I asked him, so what are you applying and what are you learning or what are you using? And that guy knew so much about what I had shared, knew my son's name, knew what sari I was wearing on that day,
Okay.
knew where I was from, but didn't remember anything about what I had really hoped to develop him on. And that for me was a little bit of a wake up call, saying that I remember that program. It went off very well. People really gave me a great score. And how come he's not using anything that I told him? That he remembers all the other fluff around the session, but doesn't remember the session. And I think that changed my entire perspective. And I believe this was about 99, about 4 years after I started Chrysalis. About 2000 is when I said, I can't do this training anymore. Because the only person who benefits is the trainer. They walk away with the check. And there's nothing else that happens.
Okay.
And that's when Chrysalis started getting into results-based learning.
Yeah.
I think an important question that comes up to my mind as we are talking about this is, when did you see a real shift in the way organizations approach learning and capability development?
Okay. I would say at the very start itself, I was talking about the telecom experience.
Yes.
Everything was related to the number of customers that we gotten. So all the training that we do were related to how many customers each individual gotten. But I relate to what you said. So I would have personally, in that span of 3 months, I would have trained about 1,350 people. And out of which I guess less than 50% really
Outperform, yeah.
outdid their own targets. The rest just kind of withered away, and they kind of moved on. They felt that the industry was not for them. So it happens. So one of the things that I have learned about learning is, I don't think you can make a difference to 100% of the people.
So, how are organizations approaching this entire thing of capability development? What do you think has shifted in the way they are approaching it?
So
In these 30 years.
even the ask from organization is that all of them should perform. I think it is very important for us to understand what performance means and how it is to be measured. And that's where I think is the most important responsibility of a learning leader, to first document what will get measured.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, that's very, very important. Otherwise, we will be chasing the wrong targets.
I remember when I started 30 years ago, at that time, learning was all about like a treat for employees. You took them to an offsite, you did some training with them, you fed them great food. In fact, there was also a question saying, how was the food in your feedback form? And then I saw learning becoming very job-oriented, where organizations started measuring how quickly can people start delivering. Then I saw a trend where it became very leadership-focused. How are people leading? What are they doing? Then subsequently, I saw another transition where I saw people getting into deep functional skills. Then it was another round of leadership. So I think there have been definite transition points that have happened. But irrespective of what the transition point is, if you don't know what is the outcome you're hoping for, it's really sand down a rat hole.
Absolutely. But I guess today, those times have gone.
Absolutely. Thankfully.
Yeah. And,
Thankfully.
the learning leader is definitely questioned on return on investment.
Yes.
How much has it worked for me?
Yes.
And that's a very important piece.
And I think that is critical, right? Because just consider the amount of resources, time, money, effort that's going into learning today in organizations. And if you say that it can't be linked to anything that is measurable, it's really disgraceful.
I have an interesting point of view on
And I'd
this
love to
as
hear
well.
that because I think it's going to be a little contrarian.
Yeah. So I come from the philosophy that it should be measured. But sometimes the measurements become very obsessive. And that's where I feel that, sometimes we need to kind of balance the, see, at the end of the day, adult learning is something which happens through self. Not everybody will be able to absorb whatever you're saying and be able to perform at the expectation levels that are being set up. So there is a mismatch, and then I have seen people saying ki only 50% of the people are really good out of this. I said that's good. 50% is not a bad number. So it also depends. Whilst I agree that measurements should be there, it should not be. I would like to say OCD of measurements should go.
So here is another way of looking at it. You don't measure people and say that you all have to reach level X. But you can tell people that you're all at X, whatever the X is for you. You need to be at X plus 2, X plus 10%, X plus 30%. So everybody is growing, but they're growing according to where they are.
Absolutely.
That I think I'm comfortable with.
Absolutely.
When a client tells me, so are all my people going to be able to do 200% of that? If this is my target that I want to give all my sales guys, will they all be able to do 200%? I say absolutely not.
Not.
But if you tell everybody that they have to improve 200% from wherever they are, that is more plausible.
So, I mean, this is a very interesting point that you have brought out. And I would like to add on to that by saying that everybody who walks into the training program is coming there with a dream of succeeding. Okay. However, I also hold the managers responsible because it is the environment that they go back to which should help them, apply their learnings. So if they go back to the same environment, I don't think everybody can even do X plus 2.
Absolutely. I have seen cases where managers may have turned around and said, all this is fine, training mein hota hoga, ab kaam karo.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think one of the ways that we have been able to counter that is that any learning intervention we do has to have business buy-in, has to have managerial buy-in. If the managers of the participants are not excited or they don't see value being added, then we'd rather not do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I can't agree with you more on this. In fact, in the recent times, I would say in the last 10, 15 years, wherever I have been, before the initiative gets launched, I have ensured that the managers of the participants are called and are briefed on what they are going to go through.
Absolutely.
However, yeah, the response has been still mixed. Some of them feel that, what is so great about in this that you're teaching? Why can't I do it? I said, yeah, you can also do it. But the point is, do you have a structured way of doing it? Is the uniformity in the messaging there? And do you have time? These are three important things that you need to have. So that's when we, put the entire structure in place, what is the work that has gone behind the design, and so on. And earlier, so one of the definite arguments that came up was, we've learnt it from our predecessor. Why can't it be the same way? I said, yeah, sure. They are going to learn more from you. It's just that they need to know what to learn. So that's what we are trying to help them with.
So, if we were to talk about manufacturing, it's traditionally seen as a very process oriented, efficiency, productivity driven kind of industry. And one is seeing that in manufacturing today, there are some very integral changes that are taking place. Uh, Changes like automation, robotics, AI, all this is happening. From your vantage point, how do you believe the learning function is morphing in manufacturing?
Fantastic question. In fact, can I go back in time a little bit?
Please
Yeah.
take me with you when you're going there.
So I think one of the biggest contributors to learning in manufacturing came from the quality and the Six Sigma movement.
Absolutely.
That is kind of that was the trigger for learning function to get embedded into manufacturing. And I would say that um, you know in India, the quality movement probably started around the 80s. There's a lot of work around quality. What does the customer want? But the realization actually came in around 91, 91 and beyond, when people started looking as doing quality workshops, understanding what is quality, and then getting into Six Sigma later on. All this kind of provided a kind of a trigger for understanding that people development is equally important as you're doing it, because quality cannot improve,
Unless people improve.
people improve. And that gave the base for learning in manufacturing. And today, I guess manufacturing is one industry, or is one vertical that provides a lot of depth for learning. Thanks to the technology improvement, we've had industry 1, 2, 3, and now we are at industry 4.0, on the anvil of industry 5.0. There is a lot that needs to be done with the people,
Even today.
even today.
Tell me more.
So what happens is, as you rightly said, um, all manufacturing industries have a certain amount of legacy, unless you're talking about startups today. Yeah. And I'm referring to a little bit of legacy, because that's where the people development practices need to be more focused, and they are now getting the due kind of visibility that it is needed. So one is the experience of people. So first thing in manufacturing you will see is a lot of experienced people. And when you go there with a new idea, so the first thing is, hey, we've been doing this like this for ages now. Why do you want us to
Change it.
Or I have also have been asked questions. What are you going to teach us that we don't know already? So these are things that have happened. But today, I guess in the last 15 years, learning has become an integral part of manufacturing. Okay, in industries where there is quality yet to be achieved, it still is continuing to start off with quality, but they are the fast adapters of new technology. So when they realize that technology can do so much, they are the fast adapters, and they kind of move in fast, get young blood into the system. And then what happens is, of course, there is a lot to be desired there, because when the young blood comes, there is a insecurity that is felt by the experience. That also is something very true of the manufacturing function. But predominantly, they are all engineers. They are all curious. So they are willing to invest time in learning. So that's a shift that I'm seeing.
Okay.
So, I've seen some of the very experienced guys wanting, hunger for learning is very high in some of them. Some of them have retired. Some of them have that hunger even post 50, 55. There are a lot of people whom I've seen, they're very curious to understand what is new. They are willing to learn from the younger generation. That's also happening. That's a shift that I'm noticing.
How, the learning function in organizations, how are they morphing?
Okay, so one of the things that have happened is uh, in manufacturing we've been able to create what you call pathways within the manufacturing vertical. One is
Okay.
a technical learning pathway.
Okay.
So where the young engineers are brought into the technology that exists in the plant, they are taken through what is it that they need to adhere to. Then the second part of it is the managerial function. The minute from where they become first time managers to the unit leaders, as I would call it, there's a lot that goes into people development skills.
Okay.
And then the third is the futuristic piece. What is new in this industry? At the leadership level, there's a lot of focus on industry 4.0. What is industry 5.0? How does plant design change in the next few years? How will our own plants look like in the next 10 years? These are questions that are being asked. And I mean, at senior levels, we have very experienced people who are very curious to know. They learn from not only from people who have come from, latest engineering colleges and management institutes, but they are looking forward to attending workshops and seminars outside, which is conducted by so many bodies. And today, another thing which has evolved over the last 10 years, I would say, is there are very specific institutes that are being run. There's a supply chain institute. There is a logistics. There is something to do with mechanical. There are very focused institutions that are running what is futuristic in their area. So that's also catching up in a big way. So
One of the ways that I've seen manufacturing companies themselves evolving is that earlier on they would be very siloed. There would be clear handoffs that I will do this and hand it off to another function. They will do that and hand it off to another function. But now with AI becoming the backbone of this entire industry in various forms, I think this siloed working will be really something of the future, of the past. And if you really need to move into the future, then a lot of mindset shifts, a lot of ability to very intentionally collaborate, the ability to look at AI and say, how can I get it to do a lot of better work across all functions will have to come into the picture. So I'm seeing learning functions within manufacturing companies and clients really focusing surprisingly on shifting of mindset, on how do they work better as teams, how do they share knowledge, how do they create clear pathways of communication. These are some of the things I'm seeing. Because traditionally in manufacturing companies, the handoffs and the kind of learning interventions would be very clear. There would be leadership, which would go across everyone and every level, every function, but then it would get very functional. And that picket fence approach is now changing.
it is changing. It is still in the process of changing. In some places, the islands do exist, but I guess going forward, the islands will need to break.
Of course,
Yeah.
more so.
Not just
More
because
so now than ever before.
Yeah, not just because of AI or technology. I think there's a more pressing need because the costs of manufacturing or cost of manufacturing is going to keep rising. Unless synergies are brought in and people put their heads together and not say that this is my function, this is how it will work. People will need to build synergies to say that how do I reduce cost of production.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
And in that, I see technology as a tool rather than, that becoming the need, that becoming a part which will kind of enable synergies.
I understand.
The synergies are going to be created by the
By
demand of the customer.
Yeah.
The customer is going to want products.
And by technology.
Yeah.
The
and by-
synergy will be created
so
by.
the interesting piece is that the technology costs are also going up because of AI, all the futuristic technologies that are coming up. So it is the people who are very, very important to build the synergies. So, in fact, I use this phrase very, very frequently in my interactions. It is the software which makes the hardware run. Okay. If the people are not going to get together, if there is synergies on, if the synergies are not built, then I don't think any technology is going to help.
I understand.
Yeah, it is only going to increase the cost. So one of the reasons why I'm digressing a bit, Sheila. So one of the reasons why AR VR hasn't really taken off in a big way is the cost of in learning. They have otherwise taken off, but in learning AR VR hasn't taken off because of the cost of the hardware. Unless the cost of the hardware comes down, the learning budgets are going to keep shrinking because the cost of production is increasing. The learning budgets are going to be shrinking unless you're able to make your investment minuscule in terms of learning
Maximum outcome.
with the maximum outcome. No company is going to invest that much. Is the pressures are going to be very high. The customer is very clear as to how much he is going to pay for it. Otherwise, he has alternatives. So if companies need to make that shift, they need to break these islands. They need to build synergies. So that's how I looked at it.
And that's what actually learning functions will enable.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you another question, and this might be a little off. What do you think are some of the misconceptions that learning practitioners have about the manufacturing sector?
So first misconception is that I guess these are intelligent guys. They need to do it all by themselves. Okay, so if they're engineers, what are we going to do? That's the first misconception that can come in from a learning standpoint. But I have experienced that learning doesn't happen by itself. Somebody needs to kind of bring it up to them and make them realize that it's not about just the technical expertise. Because as you grow into your roles as leaders, and that's what everybody aspires to do, they need to get a holistic perspective of the business. That's the other reason, that's the other myth that needs to be broken, that you can't be a functional expert if you want to grow into a manufacturing leader. So that's another big myth. And that's where the learning leader needs to focus his entire effort. Because if you're going to say that I'm going to be an expert, there is a certain threshold after which your growth stagnates.
Actually, I'm just thinking that this myth about expertise is also going to be blown to smithereens with Gen AI. I'm just wondering that, manufacturing has always prided itself on expertise. And the thing is that I've been working here 15 years. Nobody knows boilers as well as I do. Nobody knows thermocouples as well as I do. That's how they've always spoken. But today, maybe we don't need that expertise. Does that strike you as a possibility that might happen?
So today, the knowledge can be looked up anytime. Experience can't be. So, I mean, that's where I would want to make a little bit of a digression, bring in the third element that I was talking about in terms of what learning leaders should focus, is how do we capture the tacit knowledge? I guess as people retire, they carry away a lot of wealth of knowledge that they have been working on with. And that's the place where we need to use the digital technologies to kind of capture that and make it available. So that's another area where I think the learning leaders need to focus.
But coming back to misconceptions.
Yeah.
Any other misconceptions that you think are big in the mind of learning practitioners in relation to the manufacturing sector?
So today the learning practitioners are a little more wider and open. I guess the myths are also within the manufacturing system to a certain extent. So a lot of people have this thing, this guy cannot get into that function. A mechanical guy cannot do, instrumentation or, electrical or vice versa. I guess that is something which will get broken in the future.
But is that a myth that learning practitioners have or most people have?
Most people have. And if the learning practitioner is not cognizant of it, that's a myth he also carries.
Oh, okay. Got it. Understood.
Yeah, because today we are talking about making rounded leaders, holistic leaders. One of the things that I really feel it is important is, if you have to be a leader in manufacturing, you need to have experienced everything in that unit: mechanical, electrical. So, what are the big 5 levers of running a particular plant? And what are the experiences that you will drive you to learn those 5 levers, so that you are able to take decisions which are holistic, rather than not just based on your knowledge or experience of that function. I think that's where the big work lies ahead. And one of the things that would happen, and I expect that to happen very soon if it has not already happened, there is going to be investment that is going to be made on making roles fungible, making people ready for leadership roles, and that's another area that is going to be a big ticket item for manufacturing in the next 5 to 10 years.
And I completely agree with you on that manufacturing, on the leadership bit, because I think with the rate of change that we're looking at, I think leaders will really need to evolve, learn, unlearn, relearn, do all that they have to do to be able to cope with it. I have a question for you. How is how is the shop floor or the factories or the plants really dealing with this crazy kind of change that we are seeing? How are they adapting it to it? Are they embracing it? Are they fighting it? What do you hear in the manufacturing sector? What do you see?
They're definitely not fighting it.
Oh, they're not.
They're not fighting it. See, one of the, again, let me take you back in time. The way we have seen technology come in, or even, computers be used in a big way, I have had the opportunity of being garrowed in one of my earlier stints by people saying that, you can't train people on computers. It is going to take away jobs. So, in fact, there was an experience of somebody throwing a brick into the classroom. Evening, just the scene shifts to evening, the protest stopped. I was going back, and that gentleman who was leading the protest came up to me. He said, "Pardon me, my sons are doing computers." So, this is a part of something that I need to do. So, I'm sure today there is no fight in terms of adopting technology. People are looking forward to it. One of the things that I think all manufacturing industries are now conscious about is so I'll tell you one of the areas where we struggled with. We had created a lot of SOPs on the electronic medium, and it had been made into even an AR VR module. One of the thing is, at the point of reference where it has to be closer to the equipment, we decided that there will not be any kind of smart devices available. We had also put together that, so we had planned to actually give it on the
Mobiles. Yeah.
but we had said that mobiles, carrying smartphones is dangerous for safety.
Absolutely.
So we kind of withdrew. So now the way it is going to be adopted is very different. I guess many of them have already adopted. They have put some kiosks where they
Learning
kind of,
kiosks.
if somebody is in doubt, he can go and refer to what the SOP says. He can reach out to the shift supervisor to ask for any doubt, and that can be referenced. So these are things that are happening. So definitely technology is not being fought. There is always an apprehension that happens. Okay, whenever it started with calculators. When calculators came, how
It
it
started with books, actually.
Yeah.
The printing press was seen as the work of the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from there to where we are today, I guess we have only progressive. It'll only get adopted. In fact, you will be surprised. I'm sure you would have gone into tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities. The technology usage there by students and even young people is much more than what we use in cities.
Oh, you're so right. And I think what technology has done, it's just opened the world for people who used to struggle with reading and writing. So, for example, and I'll give you an example from my personal life. I tend to travel a lot on work, And I have a wonderful set of house help who are always there for me. And one of them could not really read or send messages. She sends me voice notes. And the cook today says, okay, what do you want me to make? And I tell him, I don't know, what can you make? He says, why don't you just send me anything off YouTube that you want me to make and I'll make it. And just see the kind of liberation that people are going through at so many levels.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm actually quite impressed that you're not seeing this pushback happening at the plant level.
Not for technology.
Not for technology. But is there no fear that, oh, we lose our jobs and all that?
So I guess we've crossed that phase when it comes to talking about technology.
Okay.
Okay, people are seeing that the jobs have not really been lost. Somewhere something else has cropped up.
Cropped up.
So
Okay.
there is confidence, and I guess one of the interesting pieces that I'm seeing, and it is a little wider. In India, I think we have somehow managed to crack this. Though we have the highest population, and we expect that there could be, pushback in terms of technology usage and other things. So I personal feeling, and I could be wrong, but I am sensing that more and more people are encouraging use of technology.
Understood. So they're encouraging more and more usage of technology. Okay. Kashyap, let's turn to the future. There is a lot of automation coming in. AI is here to stay. What do you think are some of the skills that we really need to focus on, especially in the manufacturing sector, and that learning professionals need to be aware of if they are going to be in the manufacturing sector?
You talked about AI. I think one of the most important thing is the data piece. How does data get analyzed? So digitalization will throw up a lot of data for you. How does that data get used? That's one thing which the learning professionals need to get into, because that's where the next set of your learning needs going to come from. And when you're looking at, so today we are all talking about database decision making. We've been talking about it for almost 2 decades, but the kind of data that you're churning today is way different from the data that you were churning a decade or 2 decades back. The amount of data, and then segregating those data into big data, small data, all data is valid, and you need to kind of sensitize your people to understand how this is going to be useful for them, and getting the experts within the industry to come and do that has got to be the biggest priority for a learning leader. And today,
Interesting.
everybody has dashboards. All functional heads, all manufacturing leaders, they all have dashboards in front of them. Now, how is that dashboard going to change over the next few years thanks to the digitalization initiatives that are going to be taken? Because as you rightly said, every aspect of manufacturing is going to see IoT and digitalization coming in a big way. Yeah. And it's going to throw up a lot of data that needs to be analyzed. In today's dashboard, some things may not be there, or things that might be there may not catch your attention. How do we be sensitive to it? What is the cost we are paying for not observing some of those things are also very important. I think that's one big area. The second, I think I mentioned it a bit earlier, is how do I make cross-functional learning happen?
So you're really talking about the T-shaped profession.
Yes, that's
Great depth and yet great width.
Yes, and because if you are creating manufacturing leaders, the T-shaped is the shape that you are going to look for. There will be somebody who is an expert in his area, but he has to be very aware, very immersed into the other areas as well, so that when he becomes a leader, he's able to take a decision that will work for everybody and not for a particular function or a particular part of the plan.
I understand.
Yeah.
In this day of automation, AI, IoT, everything, all the other terms that are very much the terms of the day, where does behavioral capabilities fit in? Where does empathy, coaching, where do they all fit in? Coaching, empathy, kindness, mentoring, listening, all these things that we've been talking about for so many years, where does that fit in?
I think they are the bedrock.
They are the bedrock.
Yeah, if you don't have these, then I don't think you're becoming a functional leader or a manufacturing leader is of any use.
You don't think they're getting outdated?
No, I think listening and comprehending is one of the biggest skills that are going to continue to be useful in the next decade, more than a decade, as long as we live. I think that's one of the most important thing.
I understand.
Empathy is very, very important. I guess COVID has taught us a lot of things. Uh, Today, I guess a lot of business leaders are pretty empathetic towards individual needs, within their teams, within their units. People are conscious about, people's well-being. There is a lot of awareness that is being created on care and well-being of people. So I think that's another area which is going to stay.
I
And
understand.
the I personally believe that a leader's biggest, what you call behavior or characteristics, not even behavior, or in fact, you can call it as an archetype, is about how does he take care of his people. And in that, all these come in: listening, kindness, empathy.
I understand.
All that is the biggest, or rather, the most fundamental needs of a leader.
I understand. I understand. Kashyap, you've done a lot of work in leadership. And that is an area where I really would like to pick your brain on saying that in a world that is so fast paced and ambiguous and where change is happening even before you can recognize it as change, how do you think leaders should really prepare themselves?
Okay. So I think you've done equally a good amount of work in this space.
But this is a show about you.
All right. So, um, so the leadership of future is definitely going to change. It's going to be very different from what it has been, and what it is today. There are going to be younger people who are going to be leaders. We are not going to have leaders who are just on the post 55, 60 kind of a thing, but we're going to have probably leaders at around 40. And that means a lot of things. That also calls for a lot of preparation for that person to become a leader. So I see that making a rounded leader is going to be the biggest challenge, right? So today there are going to be experts. Like for example, you've done equally good amount of work in the IT space. I have done that. We have very young leaders, but they are all again going to be experts in one area. They may probably not appreciate work done in another area. So that's where I like that previous question of yours in terms of the T professionals. I guess more and more people need to come into that T very fast. And today, I guess the reason why I'm saying that 40 is more realistic, 40 or 45 is more realistic, is what we learned as experiences is already being taught in the management institutes and the engineering colleges.
Or you just get it off Gen AI.
Yeah, or there are so many, we never had access to internet, but today's kids have access not only to internet, but to, chat GPT and the like of, and those likes. I guess the most important piece that we need to bring in is the human element that the leaders would need to be conscious about, because that's what will set them apart as leaders.
I'm actually seeing leadership becoming almost schizophrenic. And what I mean by that is there will be one part of leadership which will deal with data, outputs, it'll deal with database decision making, like you said, numbers, and there'll be this other technology. Leaders will need to become technology savvy very, very fast and to a large depth.
Absolutely.
So there's that part. There's that, more rational, more logical, more harder part to it. And then there's going to be this completely humane aspect to leadership that I see evolving and perhaps becoming even more humane than what they are today. So creating connections, creating networks, really collaborating intentionally, making sure that they're using AI in a humane manner. So I see some of these things evolving with almost this two-pronged approach. So I'm hard as nails when it comes to technology data, but I'm soft as butter when it comes to people and relationships and communities. That's how I see it evolving. Would you tend to agree with me?
Soft as a butter is a long, long way to go. Okay, I would say even if they are as soft as a sponge,
It's better.
it's okay. Soak up a little bit.
Yeah.
And definitely, the first description of what you gave as leaders, data savvy, they're all there right now. If you're looking at people coming out of colleges, they're also data savvy.
Out of colleges, but not leaders.
They
I'm
would-
seeing leaders struggling with it today.
Not very many. I'm saying
Okay.
leaders in the age group of 40, 45, they are not struggling because they have already tasted what technology, computers can do for them. So they're not struggling. If somebody is struggling, it is somebody who is probably 55 plus, who is, more relying on his experience and his intuitive decision making rather than on data, which I also feel is a very important thing. There has to be a lot of intuitiveness in decision making. But I guess the first description that you gave of leaders is already there. The second part, of trying to be humane, trying to be more, human centric is something which is in a manufacturing setup is a long way to go.
It's been such a pleasure having you on this show and this podcast.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad I started it because I get to have deep conversations with people like you. I'm sure our listeners and our viewers will gain a lot out of it. Thank you so much, Kashyap, for being here and being with us.
Thank you, Sheila, for having me. And I really hope that this is something which is useful for people who listen to it and
I'm sure it will
will make
be.
something out of it.
I'm
Thank you
sure
very
it'll
much.
be. Thank you so much. This conversation has reminded me that learning doesn't just keep pace with change, it makes change possible. To our listeners, if you are in the business of people, leadership, or learning, I hope this conversation helps you reflect and reset. Don't forget to follow Chrysalis India on LinkedIn. Share this episode with a learning leader that you admire. Until next time, stay curious and get future ready.